Welcome back to Your Story Medicine. Today I am with Julie Tran, who is the co-founder of RV Life with Freedom Frequency, along with her husband, Chris. They are elder millennials, foster parents on a chapter break, and former corporate professionals turned entrepreneurs and breakthrough coaches. In early 2021, because of the pandemic and a major life event, Julie and her husband sold their dream house for the liberation of RV life. They are currently digital nomads, RVing full time in their 27-foot Airstream named Stelluna. And what they've learned about RV life is that it's 50% how to and 50% mindset. They have an amazing Facebook community as well as a YouTube channel where they're not only teaching practical steps on how to live this life, but they also are providing amazing coaching on how you can get your freedom frequency mindset from within. So, Julie, welcome. So excited to catch up with you with all of the amazing shifts that have happened in the past like year and a half that I've known you.
I know, right? Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And the last time I'm imagining the last time we talked, I was actually in the kitchen of like my house and in the middle of
Yeah.
the pandemic. And now, yeah, where I'm in kind of like a spaceship
Wow.
on the road. So
I
a lot
mean,
has changed.
yeah. If y'all see the video version of this interview on YouTube,
Mhm.
you could just like take a look. I could see Julie's place.
Yeah,
It
I'm gonna
looks like a
like
fake
move out of the way.
background. It looks like you are legit in a spaceship. Like it's like you're apocalypse ready.
I know, right? Which is actually not far from the reason why I got an RV. I'm just gonna say,
Okay, so yeah,
but
we're gonna dig into this,
that's another
but
topic.
I know, yeah, and you remember the first question I would always ask on our calls? What
Oh,
are you?
Rosebud Thorn. Is that the one?
Yes,
Oh my God, I
yeah.
remember that. I love that.
So, little background. I had the amazing privilege of working with Julie, as like when she was going through so many of these transitions, and it's like to see the life that you are manifesting now. I feel like I'm being coached through the ways that you are choosing to embody the things that we called in during our sessions. And so
Yeah.
the thing that I always ask first is, of course, like, what are your roses? What are you celebrating about yourself? So let's just bring it back to old times and start there.
Okay, let's bring it back. What am I celebrating? I'm gonna celebrate my courage. I'm going to celebrate the courage it took to completely disrupt everything that I knew, everything that I thought I wanted, and recreate my life from the ground up. And now I get to travel the country with my partner, with my husband, full time. We get to create for a living. And this is huge for me. I grew up, as like an on the computer working on spreadsheets in finance, thinking that I had no creativity. And now I get to embody what a creative life is and sourcing that from within. And it just feels so alive. And so I'm celebrating that.
Mm, I love
Yeah.
it. I'm just like, yeah, the last video I saw you post was a tour of like maintenance and but it's funny, you just stepped aside and you're like, this is basically the tour.
All right.
So, where are you currently at? And if you could take all of your titles out, how is it that you would describe your medicine?
Um, where is it? Did you ask where
Oh
am I
yeah, like
currently
where
at?
are you at right now? Where are you
Physically?
parked?
Okay.
What city are you in?
I am in what city? Let's get practical. I am in,
Practical before we get to the metaphysical.
yeah. I'm just gonna turn off this light. But I'm in that's better. I'm in Maine right now. I've never
Wait,
been to Maine before.
weren't you just in San Diego like a month ago or something? Or
No,
Orange County?
I was in Orange County, I believe it was 2 months ago.
Okay.
And
And
then we did,
for those of you who don't know where Orange County is, that's in Southern California, which is on the West Coast in comparison to Maine, which is like New York.
yeah. And actually in a couple of weeks, we're going to be hiking Acadia National Park, which is like the most eastern point of the United States. So couldn't get
Wow.
more East Coast than that. But that's where I am right now. I'm in Old Orchard Beach in Maine.
Wow.
And
Mhm.
yeah, it's like crazy. It's crazy that I get to travel the country, and exploring is my job now. So
Hmm.
and then your second question
Your
was,
medicine. It's basically your medicine.
yeah,
You said your
my medicine. Yeah.
job is
So
traveling.
I my medicine is, I have like, if I had like a metaphysical medicine cabinet, there'd be a lot in there, but I would say the one that the biggest one um, is really stepping into what it means to be 100% responsible for your life.
Ooh.
Yeah. All day, every day. And even when you want to be like, no, 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 it's you, world. It's you, husband or whatever. No, it's a mirror for you to look at what is unhealed within yourself. And so that is the medicine that I continue to practice deeper and
Mm.
deeper every day.
Yeah. And especially because you just went from this huge house where you checked off the boxes of the grass lawn and having like multiple bedrooms and stories in your house and even fostering these children. You said goodbye to all of that and
Yeah.
now have confined your life with your husband into a 27-foot airstream. Like, how do you even have spaciousness to hide when you guys trigger each other? How does that
That's a
happen?
great question. And that's exactly why we created Freedom RV Life with Freedom Frequency. Because what people think is, you're on the road now and there's a glorified, romanticized version or idea of what it's like, yes, you're escaping it all and you get to travel and you get to go on these adventures and that's your life now. That's awesome. But we created RV Life with Freedom Frequency because we want to say no. Like that's possible, but freedom is liberation from within, because you can still have the same issues that you have with your significant other and you can be in the Bahamas and those issues will still come up. How free will
Mm,
you feel, right?
mm.
You'd rather than just not go on
Yeah.
vacation, right?
Well, yeah,
So
and okay, I want to dig into your ancestral lineage and how that has impacted the ways that you have shown up throughout your life into what it is you're doing today. Because
mhm,
from our conversations, it's like, and even you talking about the spreadsheets and the numbers, it's so model minority,
yeah,
right? Like be the good student and like make a shit ton of money. You worked in corporate America. You got all the things
you
that
got the
we're told we're supposed
benefits.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us more about that.
Yeah.
Where are you
So
from? Where are your ancestors from?
my ancestors are from Vietnam, and and we left when my mom was pregnant with me, and I was born in a refugee camp in Malaysia, and I came to the US when I was 1. We grew up in low income neighborhoods of Orange County, California. We were on welfare, and I'm one of 6 kids. Growing up, my mom and dad like hammered home education, education. And so I'm so grateful for them being a model of like sacrifice and hard work and responsibility. That is what got me to where I got in corporate America. I did all the things. I checked all the boxes. I had, you know, great education, check. I lived in my dream home. I could afford to build my home, check. Handsome husband,
Wow.
check. All of that. And the other side of the coin is what was like on the inside. On the inside, I felt like I was running this race I could never win. I felt like no matter how much I did, how much I gave to other people, how much I showed, how much I achieved, I was still not at peace with myself. There was always something to fix. And so I reached a point where I was like, well, it's clearly I have everything. I did all the things. Then there's something else that I'm missing here. And so that's when I turned around the finger or whatever, and I looked at myself and I looked within. And I would say that it's, we want to talk about like lineage. Let's look at how it's made me who I am today through the beauty of our lineage and also like the programming of our lineage, right? I thought that that's what I wanted. I thought I wanted that corporate life. Oh my God, when I was younger, I had dreams of being this business CEO woman in corporate America wearing a suit. and the more I did that, the more I realized that I thought it was going to be fulfilling for me, but that in of itself was not fulfilling. What's really fulfilling for me is actually disrupting the programming of what I thought I needed to be, who I thought I needed to be, and really step into my own voice and my own courage and design my life the way that makes me happy.
So what was that shift for you, being in corporate America, being that version of yourself that your younger self envisioned, only to realize this cannot be my life?
The shift was initially it was confronting. So because it first came into my stratosphere when I went to see my therapist, and she said, and I was sharing with her what was happening at work, and she's like, you seem like you don't like it there. You seem really unhappy. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but I don't have a choice. That's what I said. I don't have a choice. I believe that. I said to her, what else would I be doing? This is my identity. I've been working in this industry and this job for like 14, 15 years. That's all I know. Right. And, but then I left, I started thinking about it more, like, why not? Why not do something else? Who says I have to be doing just that and exactly that? And that who says I'm not worthy of being anybody else? Or who says that my worth is based on how successful I am at that job and that having that title?
Yeah. And how do we define success? Right. Is
Yeah,
another big thing.
exactly. Like I realized that I created this by myself. In addition to like, the social programming and all of that. And then I leaned into, I think one day I just said, you know what, she's right. Like I have skills. I'm actually very capable. I'm not this like, this like one-dimensional, like, corporate, drone or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with working in corporate America if you love it, you truly love it. But for me, I felt like that was like it defined me. And so one day I said, what would it look like if I don't just quit cold turkey, but if I just made a proposal to become a consultant? And, I was talking to my husband, he's like, no, they're never going to go for it. They're just going to like fire you or whatever. I'm like, well, if they do, they do. Like, we'll be okay. Right. And so I basically manifested that they were going to be a yes, and they're going to give me the price that I want. And it happened. And so I was a consultant and then had other clients and everything for 6 months. But it was in that space that I finally had space for myself to actually think, because I was working for like, I don't know, like 60 hours a week to now working 20 hours a week. And I started taking care of myself for the first time in my life. And I started journaling. And for the first time in my life, I let myself journal without judgment. And then all these ideas and creativity started flowing out of me. And then that's when I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. Like I'm onto like that world, there's a lot more than that. And I'm getting a taste of what this other world is, a taste of the world where I'm at the source of my life and that I'm at the source of creating my life. So long story short, that was what it was like to transition out of one world to another.
And you also talk about your journey of becoming a foster parent. So, where did that fit into your transition? Did that happen while you were in corporate or after? What was the calling for you to actually want to become foster parents?
Yeah, so I was still in corporate at the time, and I'd say that the seed started being planted in me to question reality during, I don't know, my early 30s, I'd say. And my husband and I tried to get pregnant, and we just were not successful. We did IVF 3 rounds, and it just wasn't working. And then we started looking at adoption. And when we started doing that, I think we were just in a space of exploration, and then we met these former foster youth, and because we met them and we spoke to them, it just planted more seeds for us. Like, why aren't we considering foster care? We want a family, we want to be a contribution. Why not foster care? And of course, there's like a billion reasons like why not, right? But we just leaned into that. This feels right now, and so what? Like if it doesn't look traditional, I'm kind of over things looking traditional. I would say that like that was the beginning of me really, really questioning what society tells us a family should look like, what your life should look like. And then we just decided that we just chose that this is what we wanted to do. Like we want to have a family and we want to help, and it just felt right for us. And instead of leaning into all the reasons why we shouldn't, especially the first one that comes to mind, which is what if you get too attached, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of leaning into those reasons, we just kept on talking about what's possible. And that's how it came to be.
That's a real question. What if you get too attached? And
Yeah.
I mean, I was with you on when you're just like, you're such an amazing mother. You'll always be an amazing mother, right? And it's so easy to see the life that you've created on the outside, like, wow, you sold your dream home and you moved into an RV and you get to travel around the world, or at least the United States for now, with your husband. And oh, I want that kind of freedom and that life, without acknowledging the sacrifices that had to be made in order for you to say yes to this life.
Yeah.
So, what was the catalyst for you to just sell everything? Because it's like, it's not as simple as, okay, I'm going to wake up and we're going to do this. There's a whole process of entanglement that needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. I think that, going back to the children and getting too attached, that's a perfectly valid reason for anybody not to do foster care, right? Because this is your heart that you're talking about. But something that at this quantum level that you just can't explain is what that does for you. Okay, I'm going to try really hard not to cry. Um,
And it's completely okay if you
I know,
do. I'm
I
here.
thank you,
Tears are
thank
the
you.
body's way of saying thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so the gift that we could never have predicted is that it just uh, made it just gave us clarity on why we're here. And it's not something you can explain, it's just something you have to experience, and people experience it in different ways. And I just know it in my bones, like why I'm here. And the things that were important to me just are not important anymore.
Yeah.
So um, the process, what this looked like for us to just purge everything um, was, so we were foster parents for 2 years, and the boys were reunified with their biological parents. Um, and that's just the way the foster system works. The primary objective is reunification with the biological parents.
Mm.
And with us, it didn't matter. Like, we always knew that was a possibility. We always knew that was a goal, although it changed, lots of different times, like during our experience with them. But it didn't matter. Like, we just loved them no matter what. Like, we made a commitment to love them as if they were our own. And so they were reunified, and then now we're looking at ourselves, with our broken hearts. What's next, right? Because it could be really easy, and I see this happen a lot in the foster system, where you feel like, you're broken now, and what do there's uh, and you kind of just like freeze. You just stay frozen in time. And I didn't want that for my life. I didn't want that for Chris. I didn't want that for us. And I wanted to be a model for them, And so one day Chris called an emergency date night. And we went out to dinner, and we said, what are we doing? And I said, okay, we're going to have this conversation. Let's do it right. So we start with what our values are. And that's the root of everything. And then everything that we do is just an extension of our values. So we got clear that our values are freedom, courage, adventure, and love. And then we started kind of just like speculating, oh, what does that look like? And then RV life came about. And initially we were like, no way. But I think I've seen enough like tiny homes, like YouTube channels, where it was like, but maybe.
Yeah.
And then we just started getting like really excited about it. And we started doing research about it, research on different RVs. And we just kept the energy in our space. We kept talking about it. We kept being inspired. And then, and then we just manifested it. We weren't supposed to have this RV when we thought it was going to be like 6 months later, because of like inventory and all that stuff. But I just said, like, why not? How can this happen? Universe, show me. Like, I need, like, we want to move in right after we sell our house. I don't want to move somewhere else and then like move into an RV again.
Yeah.
And then anyway, this one just popped up, and we just stepped into it. So
That freedom frequency. Oh, wow.
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this process, because I'm not really familiar with how the foster system works. And I what I'm feeling in my heart, in my bones, is how I mean, like, by the time this episode comes out, people will already have seen me on the Red Table Talk. They'll have known about me going through this separation, and how, like, even my mom or like society will say, like, oh, what a waste of time of giving all of your love to somebody only for it to be taken away. And it's like that love can never be taken away. There's always an abundance of love, and it was not a waste of time. And so we even treat relationships and the time that's invested in them as if they're transactional, as if because I gave you love, you owe me something. And when I think about the ways that you cultivated a loving home and relationship with these children, what can you ask from them? What can, like, other than just loving them, knowing that who knows what trauma they went through for them to eventually be in the dream home that you and your husband built so that they could feel safe in this moment of time before being reunited with their biological family. Like that to me is like maybe one of the ultimate forms of agape, of unconditional love.
Yeah.
And for you to experience this capacity of grief, ugh, like raising these children as if they're your own, has also opened up this capacity to feel this freedom and this joy that you now get to live while taking grief with you in your 27-foot Airstream.
Taking it all. Yeah. And I want to just point to something that you mentioned that's really important. People, and this is beyond foster care, this is just life in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I make this choice, these are all the bad things that can happen. And like we put a limit, like what, and I'm speaking from a lot of experience here too. Like we can put a limit on what is possible for us by over analyzing the costs and benefit, because we cannot predict the magic. You cannot predict magic. You just can't. You just have to make space for it.
Ooh, that part.
And staying sort of hooked into all the reasons not to do something is this fear-based sort of mindset that has you, when we talk about like freedom from within, that's the mindset that we coach our community to take their fingers and unhook themselves from that and release themselves into what is possible. Because if something is possible, if you want something, believe in yourself that you will find a way to make it happen. You have no idea how powerful you are because you have not been taught this. And so this is a message. So thank you for bringing that up. And this is a message that's really important to us because it's not just about me, my husband, foster care, doing RV life. No, this is about our entire community and entire human race, and what's possible for us. So.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about making space for magic, because this is so true. How is it that you make space when there's so much clutter, when you've accumulated a lifetime of not just material things, but beliefs and stories that prevent us from being able to unhook ourselves? So, I mean, my decluttering process is definitely not to the extent that you have. I lived in a small, like 600 square foot apartment. So it was actually kind of easy for me. And you had this like huge 2-story home where you've had to let go of so many things. What was that process like for you?
It was really hard and liberating at the same time. It was hard, the emotional. I think what you're referring to is the emotional parts of letting go of something that's so special for you. And for me, I actually was never the type of person to have an emotional sort of connection to things around me. I just felt like I just used to see them as all kind of disposable. But I think like having the boys, that totally shifted, because everything I saw was like, oh my God, this memory, and oh my God, I can't, like it was really hard. so what helped me was gifting it or donating it or selling it to a home that I knew was going to take good care of it. Like we sold our couch to a family in town that I just felt so connected with, and we were looking for a foster home for our fish because we couldn't take our fish on the road, and they took the fish too. And it made me so happy that they have the couch, which we created so many memories on the couch with pizza night and movie night and all of that.
Yeah.
And it was so comfortable too, I just have to say. But it went to a family that I knew was going to create beautiful memories with it too. And then there's just like the knickknacks and the stuff. I just donated. I did like a huge sale. I sold a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and I just had to kind of like appreciate it for what it was and what it provided for me in my journey. And then I just had to like let it go and celebrate that and celebrate the liberation. Because the biggest thing I took away is that I actually don't need as much as I thought I did.
Mm.
I really don't. We live in 200 square feet now, and there are lots of drawers where we have stuff we don't even use. So
I've been saying I've been saying 27 foot. Is it 270?
No. It's 27. Did I do a type? Did I make a typo? It's 27
No.
feet. You're right.
Oh yeah, it is 27 feet. Oh my gosh. I'm like, what? How is that even possible? It's like
it's a yacht. Fooled ya. It's been a yacht the whole time.
So do you have a storage unit for your stuff that's waiting for you to come back, or did you just like literally let everything go?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think this is my phone. Hold on a second.
Yeah, that's okay. Editor, edit that part out. Start here. Okay. So do you have your stuff in a storage unit, or did you literally just let everything go?
Yeah, so we do have some things in the storage unit, and those things are more things that, you know, when we have another house down the road at whatever point in time that is, we already have something to start us off. So it's like the basics.
Okay.
You know, it's not like necessarily valuable, but they're the basics that I just don't want to deal with, like figuring out how to get and do all that shopping. So we have that in a storage unit in Connecticut, and yeah.
Wow. Okay. One of the things that I have been learning the most in my own process of decluttering and letting go is the need to acknowledge how this thing played a role in your life, whether it had any significance or not. And how is it that we can let go of it from this place of gratitude versus like bitterness or resentment. And even for me, I'm like, okay, do I want to sell this or do I just want to give it away? One of the books that I've read, I think it was It's Not Your Money, was about how because we assign so much meaning to material things, oftentimes based on how much it cost, is actually an emotional attachment as well. And so for somebody who is in the process of letting go, what would you say are the benefits of just like fully letting go? I don't need any money from this versus, okay, maybe I should sell this. Especially if you're wanting to quantum leap this transition of embodying freedom frequency.
Yeah, so we did a combination of both. We started out selling things on Facebook Marketplace, and then when it got to down to like the stuff that wasn't, you know, that was still sitting there, my sister-in-law calls it like doomsday. Okay, on doomsday, you just got to get rid of, because you're moving out. So
yeah.
So we like, oh gosh, there's this woman that I built a relationship with all my clothes. she came to like, I did like a whole shop do this closet thing. And she's like, you know, there you have, we're the same size. I don't need a lot of this stuff, but your clothes are so cute. And then anyway, I called her when with all the stuff that was left over. I was like, you want to just take my stuff? And she's like, oh my God, yes. So she just like came and took my stuff. And it was a benefit to me because then I didn't have to like go and like drop it off somewhere, because anything that she didn't want, she was going to drop off somewhere. And so I think that there's nothing wrong with selling your things. And it's all very personal. It depends on your financial situation as well. Like I'm not working full time the way I used to, right? So I'm going to acknowledge that it's important for me. Like this is a source of income for me. And then, you know, and then so you kind of just stage it out. Like, so I would recommend like just checking in with what's important to you. And if you have any guilt about selling your things, I would say, you know, let that go. Let go of that guilt. And then whatever is remaining, definitely donate it. And then they're like special, like really special pieces to you that you want to like keep in your family or something. I know that I gifted like several things to my family because I didn't want to keep it, but I wanted to make sure that like the memory, like, you know, it gets to be enjoyed and stuff. And so there are like multiple layers, and I would say there's like no like right way. Just check in with yourself and like what feels good. And you know, like you said, give it gratitude and let it go and make space for new memories.
Oh, that part. Makes space for new memories. And what has it been like for you to share the small space with your partner? Because like I feel like a big disruption in my relationship was because we didn't have privacy. We saw each other every single day, and I have questioned, oh, if we lived in a bigger space, maybe that would have changed things. And there's some people say you actually just take your problems with you. And I'm really proud of the ways that we were able to function in such a small home until it got to a point where we're like, we just need space in general. And now like you don't have another room to hide in. So what has it, and I also know that you talk publicly about how you and Chris have had your moments where you've questioned whether or not you should still even be together. So how has your relationship,
divorce?
Right? So how has your relationship shifted now that you can't hide from each other?
I'd say the benefit and drawback of living in an RV is that, yes, you get to spend a lot of time with your partner and get to create this life together. I'm going to phrase that differently, actually. The benefit is you get to work on your communication skills. The drawback is you have to work on your communication.
Not only that, because I was also imagining you two being on the road, and I know a big distraction is our devices. And either one of you needs to be driving, and I'm sure you're in a lot of places where you don't get reception. So there's a lot of passing the time with it, just being able to dialogue, and you can't run away from your shit.
No, you can't. There's an urgency to it. There's an urgency to resolving anything that you're withholding, any things that are triggering you like right away, with kindness and love. But there's an urgency in getting all that into the open, because what's going to happen, it's going to carry over to the next thing. Like you're working on a project together, and then, you know, I trigger him and he doesn't say it, and then he suppresses it, and then he like falls, you know, off the handle on like, I don't know, something else because I put my fingerprints on the camera or something, which might not have happened yesterday. But I'd say like how our relationship has evolved is we're both on the same page with the urgency of getting to the root of like what's there for us. Because it's not about the thing. It's not about the fingerprints being on the camera lens, right? It's there's
It sounds so petty, and yet I relate because
Yeah.
it's what's underneath it.
Yeah. And because one day it's that, and the next day it's, something else, like, I didn't take out the trash, or like, you know, and these are the everyday moments, because this is life. Like
Mhm.
freedom is being able to move in your day in harmony with your significant other and yourself, and feel completely supported and self-expressed, right?
Mhm.
So moments like this could completely derail the energy between you two, and and if you don't deal with it, it's just gonna carry over to the next thing that you're supposed to do, which is supposed to be fun, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not having a fun experience now. So why are we even
Mhm.
doing it? So
Yeah.
so we talk about, so Chris and I are very open and honest. More so he kind of had like has to be, because like this is the world that I'm in and what I'm creating
Yeah.
for Freedom Frequency. But I just have to hand it to him. He's been such a trooper, and really like stepping into vulnerability and authenticity about what's showing up for him and in our relationship. I will say things and put things out there that he like laughs about. He's like, this is so great. He claps, while other people are like, I can't believe you put that out there. So I just really have to acknowledge and honor him
Mm.
for his support and like riding with me on this. Um,
Yeah.
and this is the urgency that I was talking about. Um, if I could share, give your community something to take away, it's taking responsibility. It's standing in, taking 100% responsibility for 50% of your partnership.
Mm.
And what that looks like for us, like I can say that and it can sound like very conceptual, right? But my Chris and I actually have a process that we go through to really like pull at the root, like look at it and like
Yeah.
pull it out. And it's called restoring our power. And there are 4 steps to it. Do you have time for me to walk through this in like
Absolutely.
2 minutes?
Please.
Okay, great.
Please.
Um, so it's called restoring your power. It's for you to bring to the surface what is there and get your power back. Because you could be getting into an argument, right? And you could feel very victimized, like that person is doing it again to me. They know I don't like that, right? Who here? I'm just curious, like who can relate to this? But
Yeah.
um, but restoring your power is taking your power back, because you're no longer the victim.
Mm.
What they do has nothing to do with you and how you react. So, or can have nothing to do with you and how you react. And so what restoring your power looks like is, first you talk about what happened. And so I'll just share something. I haven't done this with Chris yet, but I'll just share something, an incident that we had yesterday. Yesterday, what happened was we were in the car and he triggered me because he started complaining about something. That's what happened. So I made like a cutting comment, like, oh, every time this happens, you say that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just the facts. No story, no nothing. That's just the fact. And what was the impact on me and on him? So then I say, like, I believe the impact on you is it made you feel like I was making you wrong, made you feel bad. And the impact on me is I feel like I feel not good for being like, for making you feel bad, right? And I feel disempowered for being triggered. And at the source, and then you talk, the third step is, what is the source of this? So I would say, like, the source of this is me being a control freak about freedom, about like wanting my own space and having freedom. Okay, I'm a control freak about freedom. Okay, and you're just like all up in my business right now, making me wrong, right? And
Yeah.
so that's at the source. And then the fourth thing is like, am I doing differently next time? What I'm doing
Mhm.
differently next time is like, hey, I'm just going to let you know that that what you like what you said there made me feel this way, made me feel like like I did something wrong. And I'm going to put in place saying that just like with kindness, as opposed to pointing the finger. And that's it, those 4 steps. I would say that like it has taken our communication from a level, it would, the amount of like fights or disagreements that we used to have that used to carry on for days, now we, for the most part, okay, it's not all rainbows and butterflies, you guys, like reality check, right?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
for the most part, like we can get over arguments and like move on within 5 minutes to like an hour. And before I would be the ice queen for a week, and there's no freedom in that. And now we have freedom again. Yesterday, we were at a point where I was like, I don't think we should go on this walk, this beautiful walk, because I'm still holding on to a lot of resentment. And then I had to take responsibility. And I was like, literally like coaching myself, like, okay, if I continue to punish him, make him feel bad, then I just know it's disempowering for him. And I just know we're going to have a terrible evening. So why would I want that? Why would I choose that? So then I just chose right then and there to say, I'm just going to let it go. And just accept, how should I put this? I'm going to just let it go and just accept him for who he is, while holding him holding him accountable for his role in our relationship as well. So
Yeah, so beautiful. It reminds me of a practice I learned from Thich Nhat Hanh called watering the seed. I have to go back and look at it, but it's also a 4-step process. It's very similar to that, which is like first, I remember the first one is gratitude, because we're so quick to go into criticism and what's not working versus leaning into celebrating what is. I'm so grateful. More gratitude than criticism or feedback first. It's like 10 reasons why I'm grateful for you, and then maybe like 2 to 3 reasons why the situation that just happened, the words that were just exchanged, were hurtful. So acknowledging that, and then acknowledging the story that's coming up, like the impact you mentioned, the story that I'm telling myself about this situation is this, followed by I know like eventually the closure is like the support I need from you, and then the support that I am ready to give. Because you're right, it's like and I love like circling back from what you said in the beginning, it's about taking ownership. And I'm just laughing at the contradictions of you talking about freedom and yet wanting to control it. That
oh
is
yeah.
so real, by the way. And now you're just like full throttle embodiment. And even like and our partners are just mirrors, right, to what it is that we are still healing within ourselves. And so like what a beautiful playground that you both have just like created for yourselves.
Yeah, it's a very interesting like research lab. Like this could almost be
Right.
like it's almost like a reality show if cameras were here, you and your significant other in 200 square feet, dealing with things that pop up all the time in RV life that you've never dealt with before. But this is life. Like we get to live life in a compressed, period of time and space, and we get to live more of it. And despite continue, despite being triggered and having arguments and working through it, it's all it's the whole package of life, and it's all good.
And they say you don't truly know somebody until you've traveled with them. So
Yeah.
what is it
That's
that
if they even know
you
themselves too.
yes, that's the other
Right.
thing where it's like there could be like maybe you relate to this because I didn't see I'd never met Chris when we were working together, and now it's just so interesting to see him pop up on your videos. You guys practically are creating your own reality TV show because you're creating your own content now on your YouTube channel. How can people find your YouTube channel, by the way?
Just type in RV life with freedom frequency.
Nice. There's that. And then there's the Facebook group, which is poppin'. By the way, people who want to
It's
live
so
this
good.
life, people who are already living this life, and you just coming back being like, it's not like you can just like sell everything and buy the RV. How is it that you are actively embodying freedom in the here and now so that when the opportunity comes, it's like it's already
Yeah.
meeting you where you're at with the frequency that you have been generating, right?
Exactly.
So
That Facebook
what is
group
it?
is popping, like June
It's so
said.
poppin'.
And yeah, the freedom, I have to say, the freedom frequency family is amazing. So, I invite you guys to come and be part of the freedom fam, because we're all about tapping into that freedom frequency right there.
Yeah, and of course the links to that are going to be in the show notes, and it's all free, by the way, because this is
Yep.
just like a soul offering right now for Julie. And prior to this, I just need to give you a shout out because you created another platform called Leading AF, which stood for what?
Leading Asian females.
Yes, which was so dope, by the way. And so I love this.
Thank
It's
you.
like, I think a lot of us feel pigeonholed into picking a specific business title and niche when really at the end of the day, no matter what we do, it all comes back down to healing, liberation, and love.
Yes,
So,
100%.
mm,
It's just in a
and
different
especially
package right now, but yeah.
right, exactly. And so I'm just like I feel like I heal through you and the ways that you have just like allowed yourself to start over, allowed yourself to compost so many times. You're such a beautiful soul, and wow, to know that you came from your mother who fled her war-torn country pregnant with you on a boat to being on food stamps in Orange County into like creating the dream of your life only to realize it's a nightmare into now being like, you know what, like, hey, our ancestors were actually nomads, so technically we aren't meant to just stay in one place. And to see another Asian American woman who is actively doing this and embodying it is so badass. So you are still leading AF to me. So,
Thank you.
what is it that you're currently doing to stay grounded? And also, what is it that you are learning to release?
Um, Staying grounded when I don't cultivate and tend to my rituals after 2 or 3 days, I'm like, a monster version of myself. So, what I do ideally every morning is I wake up in the morning, I do my little like yoga stretch, I journal. I have these prompts, like 20 prompts that I give myself on like what I want to focus on. So I journal for like 15 minutes and I meditate for 10 minutes. And every other day I work out for like 30 minutes. So those are the things that ideally, it doesn't always happen, and it's okay. Just do one thing for yourself. And so that's how I stay grounded. And I will say that probably when I don't journal, that's when I lose a sense of what is important to me. And I fall into, like all these triggers around me,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
reacting to all the triggers around me. So,
Yeah,
so yeah, journaling is my best
yeah.
friend.
What's a journal prompt that you return to over and over again?
Um, I talk a lot about courage in our community, and how I build the muscle of courage is constantly training my subconscious to practice courage. So I'll ask myself, how were you courageous today? How were you? Just one thing. It can be like a tiny thing. Like it could be like you said hi to somebody, or it could be like, you were on a podcast today. You didn't know what you were going to say and you just showed up. Or it could
Yes.
be like I put myself out there and I said some things that, some people are going to be offended by or wouldn't resonate to, but I let that go and I just did it anyway. And it feels so good.
Yes, I love.
Yeah.
So I know that you also have words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us.
Yes.
So what is it? What is it that our folks can take away so that they can start creating freedom frequency in their life?
So I'm just going to read a short excerpt from a book that I love. It's Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And when I think about courage, this excerpt, this paragraph just really hits home for me. And she says, that knowing, she talks about that knowing, that intuition inside of you, and listening to that intuition. So it goes, moments of uncertainty arises. Breathe, turn inward, and sink. Feel around for that knowing, and do that next thing that it nudges you towards. Let it stand. Don't explain, because no one's going to understand. Repeat forever. So, so for me, that's courage. The courage to just do the next thing that feels right for you. Not the 100 things down the road that you're, analyzing whether or not that's the right thing. No, just feel for that next right thing. And then just believe, just trust that it'll all fall into place, and you'll know the next thing, and then the next thing, and the next thing. And to me, that's courage.
Yes, courage is feeling the fear and just like meeting it with so much grace and compassion and saying, I got you. Like we hear this phrase, like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I feel like before we can just do it, it's like, sit with the fear, ask what is it that it wants? What is it that it needs? And how is it that you can then alchemize that fear into courage? So that we can all be in this beautiful freedom frequency that you have been embodying. So thank you, Julie, for being all it is that you are. And I have one final question for you. If you could envision yourself as a future ancestor, looking back on your life, and in spite of everything that feels uncertain, what is it that she would say to present day you?
She would say that where you are, first of all, she would say she's so proud of me, and that she couldn't imagine being an ancestor to anyone else. And she's proud of me for who I've become and who I'm becoming. She already sees the vision that I have for my life and the impact I want to make. And she's saying, just continue to listen to that knowing. You already know. That's it.
So beautiful. Wow. I love Ancestor Julie.
She's a badass. Just gonna call it right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I want
you are a badass.
thank you. But before I go, I wanted to acknowledge you, June.
Mm.
You know, it's been such a pleasure to know you and to work with you um, in the middle, like at the beginning of the pandemic. Actually, I think I was in crisis, and it's
Yeah.
through our work that that gave me permission to do all the things that came after that, and doing this life now. Like I still remember a lot of our sessions where I was stuck on I have to be productive, I have to produce. And you presence me to just give yourself permission to rest. Who says you had to do this X, Y, or Z? And what you provided for me is more support and outside permission that I thought I needed, but I realized that I already had it within myself to just be and just to listen to myself and making my own rules. So I want to thank you for you and what you're creating for the community, and just embodying the wisdom and the play and the magic that you are. And for everybody watching this right now, I hope you're seeing like this beautiful new hairdo that like only June can rock with so much freaking magic right now.
Oh, God.
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow. One thing I do want to say to that, because for anybody who is considering going into some sort of role as a coach, that I am equally as much a student, because I feel like so many people come to me with this with that frantic energy, this urgency of, I want to start my own business, I want to do this and that and that. And it's like, I feel, especially for a woman of color, we have been hustling our whole lives, that like, and even for me, I started off with that same energy. Okay, let's come up with a plan and let's take the action, only to realize like, what if the medicine is actually in the doing nothing? And so thank you for mirroring that back to me. And I realized like, wow, that is really the journey, right? The journey is the letting go to make spaciousness for this
Mhm.
life that is calling forth for us, to where you might end up in a freaking RV, you might end up in a tiny home, but guess what? This is what true abundance feels like for me.
Yeah.
And so, for our listeners, this is an invitation for you to define what is abundance for you, and how is it that you can give, like, lean into that courage and know that support is available, whether that's through this container, through your story medicine, whether it is through Julie's Facebook group, whether it's through any of the people who, any of the books that you read. And so, I'm excited to see you in the community as I dream about yeah, like living that RV life. It may not be a physical RV, but um at least recognizing that I can take my freedom with me wherever I go.
Yeah, like nomad life. You could be anywhere.
Like our ancestors.
Exactly, exactly.